Hi everybody, welcome back. It's a beautiful chilly day. Now potatoes is one of our favorite foods and it's also one of my guilty pleasures. Now there's many different ways of preparing potatoes. Today I'm going to be making Parmesan potatoes au gratin, the way I love to make them. It's a very simple dish and I know you're going to love it. Now, before I even get to the potatoes, I'm going to start with my creamy cheese sauce. I'm going to be using this deep saucepan right here. I'm going to turn on my heat to about medium low. You don't want it too high. I'm going to melt 1 stick of butter. That's 8 tablespoons. I'm going to put them in here and I'm going to move it around until my butter melts real nicely like this. It's going to have lots of butter. Really good. Now I'm going to add 2 shallots that I sliced nice and thin. If you want to use yellow onions, that's fine. I'm going to stir my shallots around for about 4 to 5 minutes so they can release their flavor in here. Ooh, they're starting to smell delicious. Now I'm going to add my garlic. I've got 3 large garlic cloves, finely minced. I'm going to put them in here for about 1 full minute. We want to do the same thing with the garlic. We want to make sure that it releases its flavor in here, but you don't want to burn it. Now, some people like to prepare their potatoes au gratin using heavy cream. I like to make a nice thick roux. I'm going to add my flour. I have half a cup of all-purpose flour. And I'm going to move this flour around until it gets nice and golden so that it can get a beautiful nutty flavor. We want to make sure that the flour gets well cooked. You don't want raw flour in here. And this roux is going to be beautiful. Now, potatoes au gratin can be very bland if you don't season well. That's why we're starting from the bottom up. The butter, the shallots, the garlic, now the flour until it's golden and it releases a nutty flavor. And then we move on from there. So my roux is a beautiful golden blonde. Now I'm going to add my milk. I have 4 cups of milk and I'm going to add it in slowly. And I'm going to whisk nonstop. You don't want any lumps in here. And I'm going to continue whisking and adding my milk until it comes up to a light boil. So I've added all my milk. And you want to continue whisking because you want it nice and smooth and you want to get rid of any lumps that are in here. Now, while I continue whisking it, I'm going to season it. I'm going to add a teaspoon of my seasoned salt. I'll put a link below if you want the recipe. I'm going to be tasting it as I go along. And if I feel that it needs a little bit more, I'll add a little bit more, a little at a time. And I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. That's going to give it a beautiful flavor, a little nutty also. Now I'm going to taste it. See if I need to add some salt. I'm going to add a little salt. You can add as much as you want. Remember to be tasting it as you go along because you can always add a little bit more, but you can't take it out. So my creamy sauce has come up to a light boil. Wow, it looks beautiful and tastes delicious. Now I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm going to set it over here to the side because I'm getting ready to add my cheese. I've got 2 cups of freshly grated white sharp cheddar and I'm going to add it in here slowly as I continue to whisk so that it'll melt real nice and smooth. Now you can use your favorite cheese. I just think that the white sharp cheddar is just so good in here. You want something sharp because you need the flavor in here. Otherwise, it can be pretty bland. So here's the rest of the sharp cheddar. And I'm also going to add 1 cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to do the same thing. Continue whisking as I add it. The combination is going to be delicious. That's why you want your creamy mixture to come up to a boil before you add your cheeses. So it'll be hot enough to melt all your cheese. I've got all the cheese in here. Now I'm just gonna continue whisking until it's nice and smooth. So I've got this nice and smooth. Look at the texture. See? So I'm gonna remove my whisk. I'm gonna replace the lid and I'm gonna let it sit right there. And I'm gonna move on to my potatoes. So I'm ready to slice my potatoes. I'm gonna be using 3 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes, and these are scrubbed clean. Now you can use the russet potatoes if you want, but I think they're very starchy and they fall apart. The Yukon Gold are nice and creamy and they will hold their shape. To slice my potatoes, I'm gonna be using my food processor because I do have 3 pounds of potatoes. If you don't have a processor, you can use your mandolin. It doesn't have to be an expensive mandolin, just one that works. And you wanna make sure that you have your guard, and then you can slice all your potatoes, about 1/4 of an inch thick. Or you can use your knife, but that might take you a long time. Now I like to remove the end of it so it can just sit flat for a second right in here. I'm gonna put it right into my processor and I'm gonna push it down. And I'm gonna continue the process until I have them all done. And I'm done slicing my potatoes. Let's take a look. Ooh, they look perfect. See how pretty they are? Really, really nice. Now I'm ready to assemble and put it all together in my dish. I'm gonna be using a 9 by 13 dish. You can use whatever size you wanna use as long as you're able to accommodate everything in here. So I'm ready to assemble. I'm gonna spray my dish with some non-stick spray. You can use butter if you wanna do that, but this is just so much quicker. Now I'm gonna add 1 layer of potatoes down at the bottom. And it doesn't matter if you stack them one on top of the other, if they're touching, it doesn't matter. You just, get your potatoes in here. So I've got my potatoes in here. I'm gonna add just a little bit of pepper right on top, only because we love the pepper, and just a pinch of salt. See, just like that. And now I'm gonna add my cheesy cream sauce right on top. Beautiful. And I'm gonna continue the process. Now, if you can get 3 layers, that's good. 2 layers, 4 layers, it doesn't matter. You wanna make sure that you're done with all the potatoes and your cheesy cream sauce. And I'm done with a cheese sauce. I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit of salt on top, just a little bit. That's why it's important that you be tasting it as you go along, because you'll know just how much, you can add at the end. Now I'm gonna cover it up with aluminum foil. I'm gonna spray my foil just a little bit so it doesn't stick. I've got my oven preheated to 375 degrees. And I'm gonna put it right on the center rack for about 50 minutes, or until you can poke the potatoes and they're nice and tender. So the 50 minutes are up. Ooh, look at this. Now I'm gonna put them back in the oven for 15 minutes or until they're nice and golden. So my 15 minutes are up. Come take a look. Now I'm just gonna let it sit here for 15 minutes before we cut into it, because it'll be a lot easier to serve like that. So my 15 minutes are up. I've been waiting for this all day. Mmm. Oh, Look at this. Now I'm going to top it with some chives. Mmm. Now it's time for the taste test. Oh, oh my gosh. Mm. These are heavenly delicious. Mmm, mm, mm. They're so tender, really creamy. The combination of all the ingredients together, seasoned beautifully. If there's a special recipe that you'd like to see, put it in my comments. So this is my delicious Parmesan potatoes au gratin. Give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you.